Hi guys, hi YouTubers, hi fellows.
Okay, so welcome to today's webinar, What is your EDR solution missing? Where we'll discuss about the next step in the evolution of EDR. My name is Ana Diacono. I'm a marketing program manager at BitDefender and will be your host today. And it is my pleasure to welcome my colleagues who will be presenting today. Bogdan Cârlescu, Product Marketing Director, and Răzvan Cobzaru, Senior Product Manager. Bogdan is a cybersecurity professional with a systems engineering background and extensive experience in product management and product marketing. As a product marketing leader at BitDefender, he combines his extended skill set, experience, and innovative spirit to help deliver some of the greatest products in the cybersecurity industry. And Răzvan is a BitDefender for more than 14 years, running different product lines in our business group, and in the past 4 years, managing the EPP, EDR, and endpoint risk analytics space. Now, before we start, just a few housekeeping rules. Please note that you are muted as we are recording this webinar. We will provide access to the recording within the next couple of days after the session. Also, throughout the webinar, we encourage you to submit your questions. We are going to host a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And now over to you, Bogdan.
Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you, Anna, for being such a lovely host today. I want to start today's session with an unusual statement. It's not over. Obviously, it's not about the webinar as we are just starting. So what's the trick? I joined BitDefender in October 2016, and there's a funny coincidence about this month. TrickBot was also reported on October 2016 for the first time. If you are not familiar with the name, TrickBot or TrickLoader is a well-known Trojan that targets both consumer and businesses with the main purpose of stealing bank account credentials and other sensitive information, even Bitcoins. In addition to successfully stealing and actually stealing from millions of victims around the globe, TrickBot also has built-in capabilities to move laterally in the network in order to gain long-term persistence, and it uses exploits to do that. It does that to continue searching for sensitive documents on the newly infected machines and even to drop ransomware payloads. There were significant efforts in the previous years, both from governmental and non-governmental organizations to take down the TrickBot operation. And initially, the effort seems to be successful, but it is not over. There are clear signs that the gang behind TrickBot is alive and quite well. They updated their malware and they're back in business. You can learn more about the return of TrickBot from the extensive research that was made by BitDefender, and you can access it by using the link provided at the bottom of the slide. So what's the point of this introduction? Unfortunately, this is not a singular case. The cyber attackers around the world seem to never sleep, and we are in a constant battle that we all know and feel. Large organizations with many resources allocated to cyber defense are still being breached. And of course, the reason for the incidents is not easy to pinpoint. There are always complex factors or a combination of factors. And we cannot dive into all the details of this today, but we definitely want to ask a few important questions. What are the current solutions missing out? How can we build stronger security architectures? What options we have in order to enhance the cyber resilience of organizations when faced with complex cybercrime? So these are the questions we will focus today. And in terms of agenda, we have the following topics to cover. We will talk about what the organizations are facing in 2021 what are the key changes, the evolutions in the threat landscape, and what are the headaches generated by this new generation of threats. We will review together some possible solutions to address these challenges. And then we will dive into how we can extend the current EDR solutions to help better detect sophisticated threats. We will also have a look on how the extended EDR looks like, and Rizvan will walk us through a demo. And we will close by looking at how starting with extended endpoint detection and response can be a pragmatic approach to full XDR, or extended detection and response. Of course, as Anna said, we will take some questions at the end. Now, I know I used a couple of buzzwords during the agenda, and if you are not familiar with them, don't worry, we will clarify them as we proceed. But let's start with the cause of all our troubles, the cyber threats that we are facing in 2021. So if we take early reports of 2021, if we are reviewing key incidents, there are a few words that will quickly surface: ransomware, phishing, business email compromise, supply chain attacks, data breaches, or data exfiltration in general. There are so many organizations hit by this type of cyber attacks that it's very hard to choose, let's say, a few names as examples. The ransomware attack on Colonial Pipeline, we all know that disrupted the gas supply in the US, was all over the news. In June only, the hackers broke into the systems of Electronic Arts. This is a game provider, to steal source code used in computer games. McDonald's was affected by a data breach that exposed private information of customers and employees in South Korea. Volkswagen and Audi revealed that contact information from customers from US and Canada were also exposed during a breach in June. And that's only a short selection. I'm pretty sure that you have your own examples of businesses or individuals affected by attacks in the very recent past. Now, we can group these attacks in two key categories: some fast evolving attacks and some slow and stealthy attacks. Both groups can be very aggressive, both can be targeted, and can cause massive impact for any organization in the world. Though all can be damaging, the two group of attacks, the ransomware punch in the face, or the more sophisticated or insidious data exfiltration attempts, they require quite different defense capabilities. On one hand, we need detection capabilities that are quick and quick to detect and quick to respond in order to block the fast evolving attacks like ransomware before they inflict significant damage. On the other hand, we need detection capabilities that are able to analyze a broader context, that can put together pieces of seemingly unrelated actions in order to detect both slow and stealthy attacks. Now, I don't want to minimize the importance of fighting ransomware. This is a major class of attacks in 2021. I don't want to minimize the importance of prevention and rapid response capabilities, but today we will focus on how to defend an organization against the slow and stealthy type of attacks. And here we include attacks like supply chain, like phishing for company or state secrets, or exfiltration of entire databases during months of undetected malicious activity. Now, a question worth asking at this point is, who is affected by this class of attacks? And some might think that only large organizations, because these are the notorious cases that make it to the media. But that can't be further from the truth. The smaller organizations are also increasingly facing advanced cyber threats, either to become a gateway towards a larger target, or by being, let's say, a collateral victim in a more complex attack. The advanced attack techniques are so prevalent today that no organization is safe. Now, this class of attacks, the slow and stealthy one, is posing two challenges for most organizations: a technical challenge and a human resource challenge or operational challenge. Now, Rizvan, I know that you are always in touch with customers. You know very well their technical challenges with the current generation of products and solutions. So I want to ask you to share a few thoughts regarding the technical challenges that the organization, the businesses are facing currently.
Thank you, Bogdan, and thank you all for joining our webinar. The answer has its roots in what you presented till now. So nowadays, the attacks are not just simple malware looking to damage a single endpoint, but they are complex attacks. The attackers now are searching for the weakest link to gain access to important information inside the company. So techniques are evolving. Now, to counter these movements, the organization are trying to be better prepared and deploy multiple security layers. But one of the most important one, the EPP and EDR solution, is most of the time concentrating on one endpoint at a time, as their name saying, endpoint protection and endpoint detection. And this translates in lack of visibility or correlation at the level of the entire organization. What does it mean? It means sometimes an attack maybe is detected too late, or parts of it are missed in the investigation. Yes, some are trying to mitigate this by counting multiple similar alerts or multiple similar artifacts on multiple endpoints, but still does not offer a complete attack understanding. That does not answer to the question on how the attacker managed to get the data or which was the point of entering the organization. What I'm trying to say is at this moment, most of the time to tie those pieces together falls on the shoulders of the security operations team. And this brings us to the next set of challenges on which I invite you, Bogdan, to tell us more.
Yes, that's very, very right. The increasing number of cyber attacks and the challenges that you just mentioned are making worse a very well-known issue for cybersecurity operations, the alerts fatigue. And this is doubled by the lack of advanced security analytics skills that most organizations are facing. One of the hardest positions to fill, for example, in 2020 and 2021, according to recruiting firms, is that of security analysts. So the senior security analysts are either too expensive or simply not available to hire. And this puts the organizations, especially the ones in a mid-market space, so the ones that are not very large, in an unfortunate situation of not having neither the proper tools, as Rizvan mentioned, nor the right people to defend their digital assets when faced with cyber threats in 2021. So what can be done? What are the options at hand for let's say most organizations in the world today? Of course, one option that the organization can resort to is to outsource the problem. In our case, that can take two forms: outsourcing of the risk or outsourcing of the management of the problem. Now, as let's say as an option that many organizations are resorting to in 2021 is the cyber insurance. And this is an option where an external organization is taking on the risk of let's say of a customer, and this is an option that is becoming more and more popular today. It has its benefits, it has its drawbacks as with any other option. Another, let's say, possibility, as I mentioned, is to outsource the management of the problem to an MDR provider. With managed detection and response, an organization moves from acquiring and managing technology to acquiring security outcomes. So the headache of building a security team, the headache of defining processes that allow to operate 24/7 goes to a specialized provider. And this is a great option, especially for the organizations, let's say in the mid-range, where resources are more scarce. And we encourage customers and prospects alike to consider MDR as an option to tackle their advanced protection challenge. On the other hand, besides this outsourcing of the problem that some organizations in the world like to engage with, some other organizations are inclined more towards a technical solution. And here again, Razvan, you have a much broader perspective than mine. So what's your perspective? What are your learnings in this space?
From the technical perspective, the answer to this was, the market answer to this was XDR. What's in fact the XDR? XDR, it's a product that usually implies having access to multiple sensors that can gather data outside the endpoint, offering a unified view about an attack across the organization using the data from all sensors, or offering response capabilities across the entire organization, and offering a data lake normalization for all that data coming from multiple sensors. Of course, in order to do this, correlation across the information across all the sensors, it's performed in a centralized point, let's say. But this, let's say, sounds too good to be true, right? This should be the perfect answer of it. Now, this approach can come also with some challenges. And I want to discuss a little bit about those as well. Such a solution, an XDR solution, of course, would be more expensive to implement for an organization, because it implies spending budgets on other sensors as well. It implies even spending budgets on other, let's say, solutions that could integrate with that XDR solution in order to get the necessary information. Complexity could be also a challenge, because such a solution would imply to understand how to deploy solutions, sensors in multiple, let's say, worlds, how to maintain it. It will require for sure multiple, let's say, configurations, policies, and knowledge on how to do that on working with different technology. And that brings to the operational burden. For sure, such a solution being a more complex one, the administrators or the managers will probably need to cover a lot more, let's say, day by day managing the work for that solution, comparing to, let's say, the solutions that we are all used to till now, concentrated on the endpoint. And one last argument would be, it is still an immature market. So there is the feature set of such solutions are still emerging. Those solutions are trying right now to get a foothold and to establish a certain set of features, but still the market is trying to define itself. It's like something similar with what happened years before when EDR solutions appeared, and it took for some years before now we can talk about a standard regarding to EDR and its set of features. It's the same story in the same way with XDR. Some of them, for example, are doing correlations. Some are just data lakes. Some are network oriented, are coming from the network analysis, traffic analysis point of view. Some of them are emerging from the endpoint world. So again, there isn't, let's say, a common, even there are some definitions out there, there isn't yet a common understanding or set of features between all those solutions. So these are, let's say, the challenges that I could identify in terms of the technical solutions. Now, Bogdan, can you tell us more about our solution, or how we, what we came up with in order to counter and to benefit from those advantages of such a solution, but to counter those challenges?
Thank you, Razvan, for, let's say, bringing this clarity in terms of benefits and also, let's say, challenges that an XDR, a full XDR solution, will bring for an organization. And when hearing you talking about this, a very pragmatic question came to my mind. So, what would be the way to benefit of what an XDR can bring on the table, but while mitigating some of the risks of adopting a new solution. So and I'm glad that you and BitDefender engineering team didn't leave us with the challenges only, but you also find a great solution to tackle this problem. So I know that you took the core idea behind XDR, so to correlate events from the entire enterprise space, and you build that into the current EDR solution that we have. And you develop basically a brand new event correlation, cross-endpoint event correlation engine, and you build that into our security delivery platform, into Gravity Zone. And this is how the extended endpoint detection and response, or extended EDR, was born. Now, I know that for some this may sound a little bit easy, but enabling XDR capabilities into a mature security platform like Gravity Zone is far from being an easy thing. So let's dive a little bit into the details of that. So what is XDR, or extended EDR? What does cross-endpoint event correlation mean? So I want to look at this new capability or new set of capabilities from two angles: a technical angle and the change in threat detection perspective. Now, to better understand what's the novelty behind the extended EDR, let's quickly recap how a standard EDR solution works. So in very short words, Razvan also covered this a little bit, the EDR emerged as a complement for the prevention center endpoint protection solutions, with the idea of monitoring the endpoints to uncover suspicious activity. And it provides early detection, as we would expect, and also the tools to respond, to fight the cyber attacks. But there is an important limitation in today's EDR in general, and that's the fragmented visibility. The event correlation, as Razvan said, is done independently for each endpoint, and that clearly limits the ability of this, let's call them first generation EDRs, to detect complex attacks, distributed attacks that are moving around the infrastructure. So the extended EDR new capability, through this, let's say, new set of cross-endpoint event correlation functionalities, are solving this problem. It expands basically the boundaries of security analytics beyond the endpoint itself. So it correlates data from the entire organization. And this is an important technical enhancement that triggers another change, a change of perspective. Extended EDR, contrary to what the typical EDR does, is not looking at the enterprise environment or enterprise infrastructure as a sum of endpoints, but it considers the infrastructure as a single entity, which is composed by multiple elements. So it's the let's say, comparison between a sum of trees and a forest. And with this new capability, any of the current BitDefender customers and the future ones that are using Gravity Zone Ultra or BitDefender EDR will start benefiting of organizational level detection and organizational level incident visibility that you typically get with a full XDR solution. And this is hugely beneficial because it delivers this, let's call them XDR benefits, where they matter the most: on the endpoints, where the data is, where the user interactions take place, where let's say, the majority of attacks are happening. Now, besides this, let's say, correlation of events throughout the organization and single incident, extended incident visibility, there is a second important benefit to making Gravity Zone XDR capable, and that is the ability to ingest security events or telemetry from other sources for further enhancing the detection and further enhancing the visibility. I will come back to this in a couple of minutes, but at this point, I want to sum up the two main capabilities, the two main benefits within XDR that are addressing the technical and the operational challenges that we reviewed together earlier. So the first one is the enhanced detection of complex attacks. And this is solving the technical challenge by looking at the infrastructure as a whole and correlating events from all the endpoints in infrastructure. Note that when I'm talking about endpoints, I'm talking about physical workstations that may run Windows, Mac, or Linux. I'm talking about virtual desktop infrastructure. I'm talking about virtual servers and also very soon containers. So the entire spectrum of endpoints in the infrastructure. The second capability is the enhanced visibility at organizational level, and this contributes to easing up the security operational challenge. By composing a single incident graph that glues together all the pieces of an attack, XDR is reducing the requirements in terms of skills, in terms of work volume that the security analyst needs to do in order to have a clear picture of what is happening. So, in few words, XDR is a very advanced detection capability that is accessible to analysts of various skill level and experience. So BitDefender continues to deliver on its promise of providing an EDR that is proven in terms of industry-leading detection capability, but that is also easy to use, so accessible to a wide range of organizations around the world. And I'm repeating that, starting today, the new XDR capabilities are becoming available to all BitDefender EDR customers automatically. So no hassle, no additional cost, no hidden costs. You can actually go to the Gravity Zone console and see this new capabilities. And if you haven't, or if you're not using BitDefender EDR in any of its forms currently, I want to ask Rizwan to walk us through a demo scenario so we can have a visual of what XDR looks like and also to better understand its value. But Rizwan, before getting into the demo itself, I want to ask you a surprise question. How did you came up with XDR, with extended EDR?
Great question, Bogdan. What can I say? So we've watched and observed the market, the needs, and we, let's say, evaluated all the benefits that a full solution could bring, but we also listened to the needs of our customer or their profile, or how they can transition, their pain points, and how they can transition to such a full-blown solution. And we thought of being partners in this journey on transitioning to, let's say, a more advanced solution, and not bring them something that can bring to the table all those challenges that I presented you before. But let me better explain all of this in a hands-on demonstration. And for that, I will take an attack example to show what I'm trying to explain. Let's suppose we have an organization where that gets attacked by a phishing email campaigns, on which one user, Bob, which is here in red, will open that email. He gets infected. By getting infected, the attacker will manage to get access to the machine, And through using that machine, getting the first foothold into the organization, the attacker will use a known zero logon exploit. It's a cryptographic exploit in Microsoft, which allowed them to get access to domain control and dump the password hashes of the users. Using those hashes, the attacker then will move laterally across the organization, go and log in to different machines and try to find information that could prove useful for them. They found such an information on a CTO machine, they zip it with important files and exfiltrated to an external server. So it's practically a basic attack, which is we've seen very common out there. It implies multiple, let's say, machines and multiple movements across the organization. If we map this to the attack kill chain, we notice that there are several steps of the attack kill chain that could be mapped to the attack, like the initial access, the execution, lateral movement, command and control, and exfiltration. Now, let's see how what would be my experience if I'm trying to understand this attack, let's say, using the current perspective of an endpoint-centric solution. I'm using right now the EDR capabilities built in our product, and I'm looking at the incidents that were created during this attack. I will take, as a security analyst, I will take those incidents one by one and try to investigate and find out more. Let's start, for example, with BobPC, on which if I'm looking into the incident, I will notice, yes, this incident started from Outlook. There was a document involved. And if I'm looking at some of the alerts, I can observe, for example, there is an alert related to a reverse interpreter console. That means that's a known tool on which an attacker uses to get access and control to that machine. But even though I've learned this from just by looking at this incident, I don't have, let's say, a picture about if this attack continued, if there are other parts of it, let's say, involved. Let's take another example. Let's take the example of the domain control. I have an incident as well. If I'm looking into investigate this incident as well, there are some alerts, of course. We've the EDR detected several suspicious activity, and notable ones would be, for example, some exploits that were used. So yes, the product indeed detected some exploits, but again, if I'm looking just to this one, I'm not necessarily really aware that the point of entry was Bob machine, and that was used to run these exploits. One last example could be CTO PC, from which the exfiltration, let's say, took place. Again, looking at it, I see a reverse interpreter, so there was the connection from outside. If I'm looking down the line into the attack, there is an alert about a possible archive exfiltration. So I have some clues about exfiltration. And there are some files that are considered important, and those files probably they were exfiltrated. Now, at this point, I guess you get the point. So I've seen part of the issue, part of the attack, but for me at this point, as an analyst, it resides in my skills, my knowledge, and my time, operational time and investigation time, to dig in. Of course, probably I will find the information that I need in order to link it, but I need some experience and I need some time to connect all these pieces of the puzzle and understand the attack completely and the connection that relies between. Now let's see what the product can do for us and save some of our time. If I'm just clicking the automatic extended incident that was created by correlating all these incidents, I have a full picture on how the attack evolves into my organization. And this is built directly by the product itself. There is no need for me to lose precious time, which could be, or even if the attack, for example, is still ongoing, this could be critical in order to understand the attack faster. Now, if I'm looking at the attack by grouping by the kill chain, I can easily identify all those kill chain steps that I've talked about when I've presented the attack: the initial access, execution, lateral movement, command and control, and exfiltration. And from this view, it's a lot more easier for me to understand which was in fact the attack story. So starting from the suspicion email received, and very important right now here, I can understand that there were also for example, two other recipients that received those email information that was, let's say, hidden for me. If I'm just looking into the incident on BAM machine, that was not visible for me. At this point, I can understand there were other recipients as well, so that it was the phishing campaign addressed to the whole organization. Now going to the execution, where there are, let's say, multiple exploits involved, but let's move on to the most important one, the zero logon, which is in fact the one used to move laterally to the main controller. It's clearly identified into the extended incident, and the other lateral movements as well to the other endpoints. Again, one of the important aspects is, from this I learned that there are multiple endpoints that were, let's say, addressed by lateral movement, and not only the CTO one that I was investigating. So there are others as well. Again, this is important because using such a view and such correlation, I will be able to understand if there are other parts of the organization that were impacted by the attacker. And again, this is only possible if you look one level above the endpoint. Now, moving on further, of course, there are the connections with the outside. That means those Meterpreter console the attacker used in order to execute his commands on the machines. And at last, the exfiltration, which I can clearly identify was performed towards this server. So by using this new capability, for me, it's a lot more easier to understand the attack. As I've shown you now, even with my, let's say, in a lot less time and maybe with less skills, it's a lot easier to identify all the parts of the organization that were the impact, how the organization was impacted, what were exactly the traces of the attack. Of course, for each one of these, if I want to investigate more, there is the option to further investigate and drill down on those machines. So movement around in the investigation process is possible in both ways. I can start from a single incident on an endpoint and go upward and understand at the organization level, but in the same time, I can, at any point, by choosing any of these steps, I can drill down and observe how things evolve on a, let's say, on a granular basis. Now, this was, let's say, a short demo on how the product can help in such situations. Now, Bogdan, can you tell us what are the next steps, and what are we planning for the next quarters?
Yes, thank you, Razvan, for this short but I would say illustrative presentation of what are the capabilities of the new XDR. And by looking at what you showed us, it made me think that what we managed to do is to take the experience of highly skilled security analysts that BitDefender is, let's say, is relying on, and building this experience and this know-how into the product so that customers can enjoy this, let's say, level of benefit without having to hire such, let's say, experienced security analysts. And I think this is, let's say, quite an achievement, and it tells a lot about the XDR type of capabilities that are already built into the platform. So what is let's say, beyond this announcement of extended EDR? In addition to endpoints, Gravity Zone as an XDR capable platform can also ingest telemetry, as I mentioned earlier, from other sources of security events. And the first capability that you can immediately leverage is the telemetry from the brand new network sensor. This is a virtual device that you can deploy and configure in your network. And once this is up and running, the network sensor will start sending telemetry, so security events, to Gravity Zone. And all these events will be incorporated into the analytics engine, and it will be included eventually into the visibility and to the detections at the organizational level. And there is an excellent opportunity for the current BitDefender customers that are using EDR, either Ultra or BitDefender EDR. The sensor can be used for free until the end of the year. So go into the Gravity Zone console and activate it to experience the value of a broader perspective when talking about advanced threat detection and visibility. So on top of XDR that is enabled automatically, you can also add this capability in adding network generated security events to the incident graphs that Gravity Zone is building for you. If you need support to do that, call our support lines and they will assist you. If you're not a BitDefender customer already, try the solution, join a free trial, and check all the capabilities of BitDefender EDR, including the new XEDR and the new network sensor. Now, besides the network sensor, we are expecting other connectors, other sensors to become available early next year. And by combining extended endpoint detection and response, so XEDR, with telemetry from non-endpoint sensors, you basically have access to the full XDR capabilities that are built into Gravity Zone. So why is this launch important? With no additional headache when comparing to an existing to an EDR solution, you get the XDR capabilities for your endpoints, and you can also gradually start adding non-endpoint telemetry, non-endpoint sensors, as you see that fit for your organization. So you can start, let's say, with the simplicity of EDR, something that is mature and well-known. Enjoy the XDR benefits for your endpoints out of the box, and you can also evolve towards a full XDR at your own pace. So no one is forcing you to change your security architecture, but as you consider that fit, as the risk exposure for your organization maybe evolves, you can add additional sources of information so you can enhance the detection capabilities of the platform. Now, I want to conclude the session by coming back to the question that I started with. So how can a good solution, an ADR solution, can become even better? What can we do to enhance a security architecture? And I'm summing up here with only 3 points that are easy to remember. First is by adding the XDR capability that allows the EDR to look at the organization as a whole, not as a sum of endpoints. Second, by correlating security events from the entire infrastructure, events that might not look from the same picture at the first sight, but they are belonging to a complex cyber attacks. And by doing that, you can also have an integrated view of the security incidents. And last, by enabling you to grow from EDR to full XDR while mitigating these challenges that Rizwan mentioned and that are, let's say, expected from any new security solution. So these are the key points that, let's say, are to be remembered when considering this evolution from EDR to XEDR and then to full to full XDR. So that concludes our session. We still have, actually, we reached our 45 minutes limit, but maybe we can stay a few more minutes to see if we have questions.
Great, thank you very much, Bogdan. Thanks, Razvan. Yes, indeed. But I suggest, I think we can take 2 questions now, at least, and then we can reply to the rest offline. I'll start reading them. So we received one question: when is XEDR coming to Gravity Zone and not Ultra?
Well, yeah, I think as I mentioned, XEDR is built into Gravity Zone and available starting today. If maybe the question is related to full XDR capabilities, as I mentioned, these are also built into Gravity Zone and will gradually be, let's say, available besides XEDR through other endpoint, non-endpoint sensors. And all these capabilities will be available in all our in all BitDefender EDR product line, and that means with Gravity Zone Ultra and also with the standalone BitDefender EDR. I can have a look on the questions, Anna.
Yes, sure.
What sensors will work on Linux? I would rephrase the question a little bit because the Linux is actually it's well stated. I wouldn't change it. So Linux being an operating system that supports an agent, of course the endpoint sensor will be available for the, let's say, Linux machine. But on top of that, very soon we are announcing the availability of EDR or XEDR for containers, which are also running Linux. And more details on that you will get in short time. Let me see if I can take 1 or 2 more questions.
Can I take one? There is one
Please.
related to what other sensors types will be added. So yes, as we talked, the first is the network sensor, but in our plans and let's say in the order and in which they will come into the product as well, it will be the ones integrated with email systems, and the first will be the Office 365, and after that the Google, the Gmail. Then the identity providers, Azure AD and local Active Directory. And for continuing on those sensors to integrate with cloud services like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and so on. And this is, let's say, a first glance of sensors. Others will come up as well, like other security solutions, like CASB, like external firewalls, or other solutions that can generate logs of, let's say, useful information for events.
Okay, there is a question related to if this solution, if BitDefender EDR, XEDR can also be used as an intrusion detection system, and if it shows which data might be stolen. The EDR, XDR will detect if actions that can, let's say, lead to exfiltrating data were detected. So let's say particular patterns of attacks, they will be made, let's say, visible to the security analyst. So the security operations team will be able to maybe prevent data from being stolen. What is not, it is not a data, let's say, loss prevention system, a DLP, which is able to tag specific materials and detect if, I don't know, let's say a particular type of document is on the way of being exfiltrating. That is not, let's say, a capability of EDR/XEDR. There is another question related to if we can use EDR/XEDR to search for possible compromise from particular vulnerabilities. Răzvan, would you like to take this one?
Yes. Yeah, of course. There is we can detect certain vulnerabilities, but I would also say that there is also a component that you could use to leverage that. There is also a risk management module that is integrated fully with the solution as well. And with that, we are also detecting, besides our, let's say, anti-exploit and other modules that we have there specifically dedicated on identifying vulnerabilities and well-known exploits, we do have also a module, the risk management module, which can scan and you can use, for example, and leverage our integrated patch management module in order to close those vulnerabilities for the future or for the machines that, let's say, are exposed to certain vulnerabilities. So that was the long answer. The short answer is yes.
Thank you, Răzvan. I will take one more question, and I think we should stop because we are beyond our intended time. So there is a question related to the fact that we are showing, let's say, this entire chain of attacks, but shouldn't we be able to use our prevention capabilities to stop a simple phishing email at BobPC before it does all this, let's say, malicious actions? Isn't that the definition of EDR? I think it's a very, very interesting question. Răzvan, maybe you can also comment on that. I would take a first bite on it. The definition of EDR is not interfering automatically, or let's say the general understanding of EDR is not interfering automatically with any activity that is happening on the endpoint. So the EDR will monitor and will try to build up the incident graph and show it to the security analyst. So that's the goal of EDR, and also to provide the tools to, let's say, have manual interventions on the, let's say, systems that were affected by attacks. So that's the standard definition of EDR. Of course, there are some variations of that, but that's what typically people understand by EDR. Now, if you want to prevent things from happening, you need to have automatic response, and that's a very important capability of any security architecture. So the goal of prevention is to stop all the attacks if possible. Now, the reality is that some phishing emails are so well crafted that the user takes it as a genuine email and clicks those links or those attachments. And the reality is, because of the massive number of phishing emails that are becoming better and better, people are getting infected through phishing emails. And this is where the role of EDR starts. So if malicious actions or suspicious actions are starting to happening in the environment, you want to be warned about those, although maybe you cannot categorize them from the initial moment as something malicious. Răzvan, do you want to add something to this?
Not so much. You pretty much nailed it, and you made a very good point. Yes, indeed, EDR and XDR solution usually are they are taking, let's say, their visibility or their detections are taking place after something already happened, and usually they start from the idea that something already happened, so the prevention was in a way evaded. Either we are talking about a phishing email, which was very good, very well crafted. Either we are talking about an insider threat or any kind of, let's say, technique that could evade the prevention. So basically, the purpose of the EDR is to understand things after they happen. Of course, there is the response that you can use to contain an attack, to further harden your system, and in a way, in some let's say, in some ways, you can automate that. But that doesn't mean necessarily prevention. That means let's say, it's not proactive, it's reactive response to something that already happens. So that will not ensure that necessarily that things will not happen from the start. But I think you made a very good point with your answer. So I just enforced yours.
Cool. There are so many great questions still on the list, but we don't have time to take them. I will take one more, which is very short, and I promise I will stop with that. If the XEDR is a separate subscription, as I mentioned, it is not. So basically, with the XEDR release, BitDefender EDR evolves to a new generation. So your current product that was updated has all this new XEDR functions, capabilities built into. You don't need any other subscription. And for now, until the end of the year, you can also use under, let's say, early access program, also the network part without any additional, let's say, cost. Further on as we progress with the non-endpoint sensors, they will have a separate license most probably. But XEDR is basically built into EDR. You don't need anything else. And that's all.
Great, thanks for much for taking all the questions, and also to our audience for staying almost 15 minutes past the time. Thanks so much. It was very interesting, Bogdan and Razvan, for presenting today. Thanks everyone for joining us. We will follow up with the recording and with the presentation in the upcoming days. And we wish you all a great rest of the day. We look forward in seeing you in our upcoming webinars. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
If you need to contact us for further information, you can reach us on the website that's going to be in the description. You can also contact us on our live chat service. You can contact us on the YouTube comments. We'd be more than happy to assist you. You can reach us at acs@cyberservices.com. And the contact numbers are +44 for international dial, and that would be 1704 893 447. You could also reach me on my mobile at 07494 027783. If you need to contact us on any further information about webinars or demos, please let us know, and I and one of the team would be very happy to assist you. Thank you. But please note that when you are coming to us with regard to an educational request, please also send in some form of identification, or if you are a member of staff, say the IT administrator, please send in a letter from the head teacher with a manual signature so that we can apply an educational discount. But please be aware that you may have to buy so many licenses in order to get a discount. Thank you and bye-bye.